Best series finale ever, hands down. I don't even know what to say. It was so good. It was everything I think any fan could want. For me, the finale happened to air on my birthday, which was like, thank you, Vince Gilligan, best birthday gift ever. But like beyond that, it just satisfied everything that I wanted, and I think that most people wanted. Walt did everything that he needed to. He got revenge on the neo-Nazis. He put a bullet between Jack's eyes. He got to say goodbye to his family. He left them his money. He went out on his own terms. Jesse got revenge on Todd. He escaped. He's like free to do whatever he wants. I just think, like, for those rooting for Jesse, they got what they wanted. For those fans rooting for Walt, they also got what they wanted. It was just a perfect balance. And for a show that's often tortured these characters, and especially Jesse, and just given him so much hell, to have such a, like, overall redemptive ending is really wonderful. And I think it's exactly what the show needed. And I think, Walt dying, the way he died was absolutely perfect. It was emotional, and for both types of fans. For the fans who wanted Walt to die, wanted him to pay, it was exactly what they needed. He lost his family, his legacy is essentially ruined. He's dead. He died essentially a broken man. So from that perspective, the fans got what they deserved. For the fans who actually were rooting for Walt, he died on his own terms. He got his kids his money. He didn't get caught by the cops. He went out with a smile on his face. So I think it's just the perfect conclusion for both types of fans, the Walt haters, the Walt lovers. And it was just brilliant for Vince Gilligan to pull it off in that manner. So just to break it down further, I think just starting from the setup, we had like a great series of scenes. The first scene, which I thought at first seemed a little bit unnecessary, where he's like looking for a way to start the car, like the keys fall in his lap. But I realize it's actually pretty ingenious because of the one moment where he sort of speaks to God. He's like, just get me home, I'll do the rest. And it was a little moment, but it's very interesting because I never knew Walt to be a religious man throughout this show. But the fact that he's maybe shown a little bit of religion in him and spirituality in him, I think that's fascinating because of all of his sins, because of the evils he's committed. And if he is this religious man, where does he think he's going? He can't think he's going to a good place. So the fact that he's talking to God, or whatever you want to call it, just places him in a very, very interesting kind of position where you're not exactly quite sure how to read into it. And if he does think he's doomed to hell or whatever, I guess he's accepted it. So that's pretty interesting. And from there, we have the great Gretchen and Elliot stuff, and just brilliant camera work when you kind of see him in the background. He's in the shadows, and the bench are closing the doors. It's like it could be like a slasher flick or something, and it's just so great. You just don't know what he's going to do. That shot in particular, when he closes the door, is very well set up with him kind of in the background, Gretchen and Elliot in the forefront. It just gives you a huge sense of space, and the way the space is manipulated and represented as Walt walks through it. It's pretty cool. And his actual revenge on them, with the sniper, right, the fake sniper guns, it was so great. And just like, I think it's the perfect way for him to get his money to his family, and also kind of bring the story full circle, bring it back to Gretchen, Ellie, and Walt. And we still don't know exactly what happened between the three of them, but I think we know enough. I think we know they screwed him over in some way, whether it was romantically because Gretchen and Walter were a thing, or whether they stole some of his ideas or didn't pay him his money. They obviously did something fucked up to him, so he got his first revenge was essentially on them. So that was good to see. And other great bits and pieces. The scene where Walt goes back into his house, gets the ricin, and then that flashback to the first season where Hank says, come along and ride with me. Walt says, maybe someday. Very touching, very heartbreaking. And you do get the sense of scope, just how far the show has come in terms of tone and character development. If I could pick any scene to flash back to at that moment, I think that was a pretty good choice. And then, of course, the ultimate use of the ricin was, I think, a pretty cool idea. I mean, it was predictable. I had a feeling it would be Lydia who got the dosage, the ricin dose in her tea. But it was appropriate. Just I'm not sure exactly how he got it into the stevia. I don't know if I feel like he maybe had a syringe or something and like kind of injected it in there. But I think maybe they should have shown exactly how he got it in there. But you know, it doesn't matter. It worked out fine. And then the scene where Walt goes back to goes to Skyler's new house. That was a brilliant reveal with Walt kind of behind the barrier. And the way the barrier was used throughout their conversation, like he's talking to her, trying to explain himself, she's on the other side, and the barrier's right directly in the middle of them, showing, you know, how far apart they are, the separation. And I also very much like how, from a director's standpoint, once he confesses that it was him the whole time, that he had been doing it, everything he had done was for him, the barrier kind of breaks down, and suddenly it shows them together again. And, you know, obviously not together in a mushy-gushy sense, but together in that there's now an understanding. There's a mutual understanding between Skyler and Walt. And from a, you know, on top of the acting, from a directorial standpoint, that was really brilliant with the usage of that barrier and the way it was broken down. So that was pretty cool. Also, just in general, the raw emotions in that scene were fantastic. It was very, very sad seeing the two of them talk to each other. I think you get the sense that Skyler still kind of loves him. You know, there's still love between the two of them, but it's just so broken. It's just a shadow of its former self, and they know there's no going back. And just, I also like that he gave her the ticket to find Hank's burial site. I'm very glad that happened, because it would have been an absolute shame to leave them rotting out in the desert. So I think the fact that he gave her the ticket accomplishes two things. It's a form of justice for Hank, that he gets a proper burial, and it gets Skyler scot-free from the cops. So I think that's great that they did that. And the ending of that scene was absolutely heartbreaking as well, with, you know, Walt kind of, you know, with Holly in the crib, and then just Skyler and Walt exchange this last look, and he walks out. It's so sad. I really wish he would have said one last goodbye, or like actually said goodbye to her, but I can see why he didn't. There was nothing more to be said. It was just kind of a silent parting. And then, you know, with Junior coming home and Walt knowing that Junior wanted nothing to do with him, he knew if he showed his face to Junior, Junior would like fucking flip out and call the cops. And it's just so sad that his goodbye to his son had to be literally him watching him from like a building away. It's just absolutely devastating, but in a sense it's Walt reaping what he sowed, and it's exactly what he deserved. So yeah, and then of course the final scene, Walt goes and confronts the neo-Nazis, and I love that he throws himself on Jesse. I love that he turns on the gun and tears them all up. It's awesome, just the Nazis getting shot up, and he takes a bullet for Jesse. In the most poignant way, he both sacrifices himself for the man he always manipulated, used for his own ends. He ends up sacrificing himself for Jesse. And it's a great turnaround. It's perfect. And he dies by his own bullet, by his own hand, while also saving Jesse. It's just the most beautiful way that it could have ended for him. And, you know, and I love that Todd gets choked by Jesse. It's like the perfect revenge. And Walt putting a bullet between Jack's eyes was also phenomenal, because I think it's sort of, beyond just being awesome, like interrupting Jack, he's like, oh, I have the money. If you put a bullet in me, you'll never, boom, it just shoots him anyway. It's just so badass. And also, I think it's Walt getting an even sweeter revenge for Hank by killing him the exact way Jack killed Hank. Jack shot Hank mid-sentence, and Walt just offed him in the exact same cold fuck you manner. It was just the perfect revenge, the perfect justice. And then, of course, you have Walt giving Jesse the gun and saying, shoot me. And Jesse's like, no, you know, you say you want it. And then even when Walt says, I want it, Jesse won't do it. And I think that's right. I think the writers made the correct decision there. I think Jesse should not kill out of cold blood. And I also think that Jesse, at this point, no longer needs to listen to Walt. He's decided a long time ago that he's never going to listen to Walt again, and that includes not listening to him when he tells him he's going to shoot him. So that was handled very well. I always kind of thought that the show would end with them teaming up one last time, and then with Walt saying, Jesse, kill me, and Jesse ultimately not doing it. I always thought that would be character-wise the kind of perfect way for it to happen, and that's exactly how it happened. And emotionally it hit all the right notes. And my favorite part in all this was when, after the phone call with Lydia, where he gets to kind of rub it in her face that she's going to die, which is great. After that, when Jesse goes to the car, they look at each other one last time, and it's a wonderful moment. They just kind of look at each other and nod, and that's all. They don't need to say anything. It's all in those looks they give each other. You understand the weight of their relationship. And it's like, despite all the animosity, wanting to kill each other, despite everything bad that happened to them, they sort of, in this look, realize the impact they had on one another's lives. They realize, despite everything, without each other, they would never have become the people they are at this moment. And in a sense, there was a kind of love and friendship and mutual respect between the two of them, and it's over now, but they needed that one last look of acknowledgement as a sort of a final ending to their relationship. And it's quite fascinating too, because all the terrible things Walt's done to Jesse, all the terrible impact he's had on Jesse's life, nevertheless, if not for Walt, Jesse would never have become the good moral person he is today. Jesse would have still been some junky meth dealer in Albuquerque with no life, and that wouldn't have changed. But because of Walt's presence, Jesse had an arc. Jesse evolved. He went through terrible pain, but also came out on top better than he ever could have, and now he has a chance for a real life, and that would have been impossible without Walt. So it's just very interesting, I think, to look at it from that perspective, to think that ultimately Walt may have been a positive presence, a positive influence on Jesse, just like Jesse at the end was a positive influence on Walt in terms of bringing Walt back and giving Walt that one opportunity for a final sliver of redemption in saving Jesse. So I think they kind of realize all of this in that look. And it's great. And then Jesse's released, and he drives off and smashes through the gates, and his gleeful laughter is just the most amazing thing. It's just the best thing I've ever seen in a TV show. The absolute glee, the joy of just being free, just being absolutely free in his life before him. It's wonderful. I was laughing right along with him. I think it's fantastic. So Jesse's end was perfect, and Walt's end was equally perfect. The fact that he gets to go out in a lab, essentially with his baby, walking among the tanks, the meth, tapping the dial that has the 86 degrees, the exact right temperature for cooking meth. It's all great. And then picking up the original gas mask. It's just absolutely beautiful. And, surprisingly heartbreaking. When he died on the floor with a smile on his face, it was really touching. I mean, I was crying during that. The song that was playing, Baby Blue, everything. It was just absolutely perfect. He died, I think, in the only way he could. He redeemed himself in the best way possible. He couldn't make up for all the years of sins, but he did at least find a sense of redemption for himself. He died giving his money to his family, saving Jesse, and he died with the pride of knowing that his empire died with him, and he died in a sense a fulfilled man. Maybe not a happy man, but the last year of his life, just as he said, it turned him alive. He became awake. He did everything that he wanted to. It may have ruined his life in the end, but it made him live out a life that he could look back on and say, at least I did something. At least I wasn't sleepwalking. At least I became somebody. And it's very emotional. And just that last shot, it was just great. And I think even the positioning of it, the way you have the gas mask next to him and the way he's laid out, I think it's an exact mirror shot of the poster from the first season where he's like in his underwear holding the gas mask. And I think they did it intentionally, just as another way to bring it full circle. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I think it's an absolutely perfect way to end it. I'm sad to see the show go. I'm sad to see Walter White go after everything he did. Still, at the end of the day, it was his story. It was his show. The show died with him, and, that's it. Breaking Bad is done. It's over. I don't know what I'm going to review from week to week anymore. But, it's the best show I've ever seen in my life, and I just can't ask for a better way to have gone out. So you know, that's it. My thanks to Vince Gilligan and Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul and everyone who made this show. You guys are awesome. So thank you, and thanks for watching these reviews. And hopefully I'll have something else to review soon. So thank you, and take care.